Welcome to the Nuclear Snail channel. In this episode I'll show you how to make this sort of a composite scrap fabric effect for your post-apocalyptic or horror costumes or wherever else it may apply, which is, I think, a really cool material because it's sturdy. It lets you get rid of your scraps efficiently but nicely without just ditching them. It's not very expensive and it's still kind of flexible, so you can put it around your body. And in fact, to complement this metal chest armor, which I will show you in more detail in another episode, to complement that, I'm going to give myself a corset made out of this. So it's scrap fabric and scrap metal. It's like those pieces of fabric are completely soaked with this glue, which then turns into this plastic-ish substance when it's dry. Really feels and looks crazy, I think. Look at this piece with this Russian telograyka fabric, which is like a padded jacket for winter. Telograyka means literally body warmer in Russian. And here we have a piece of my lucky underpants that I wore to so many LARP events with the hearts on them. Also listen to it. Really cool, huh? I could even almost do like ASMR thing with it. Like, listen to me scratching on that fabric. Yeah, I'm not good at that, but you know what I mean. It's really nice sounding, it's really nice looking, and I really like the result. Especially, you could not possibly achieve something like this with sewing, because you would not get that texture and that feel without using glue. So the glue we use here is just some simple wood glue, and you can get it in almost any construction store, I think. Here is what the back of it looks like. So as the back, this is just some old underpants that I've cut in half and laid out as the base layer. And then I layered a bunch of different scraps on top. And here is the box of scraps that I have. It's not the only one, and I have way too many of them. I use a piece of this and a piece of that when I do the costumes, but scraps accumulate at a much higher rate than I get rid of them. And I decided to put an end to that. And that plan, by the way, did not succeed, because to achieve something like this with that surface, it didn't even take 20% of the crate. It maybe took like 10% of the crate to achieve something like this. So if you get a lot of wood glue and you have a lot of scraps, you can get a lot of this fabric out of it. Now, while we're doing costuming on this channel, we also often ask ourselves how realistic or how efficient would this be as an actual armor. And don't do this at home, what I'm about to do. And it's a sharp carpet blade here. I'm gonna press it against my body just for shits and giggles for now. Nothing. It leaves some scratches, but more than anything, this just dulls the blade. That's pretty much all it's doing. Let's do like this. I mean, I get some minimal scratching here. This is it. Now, it would be a different story if this had more mass and was more of a chopper and like a sword or a knife or whatever. I'm not saying this is anything proof, okay? Do not use this as actual protective gear. By no means. But, you know, me slashing at it with a carpet blade doesn't do jack. As you see, and I'm using a lot of force here. So this is not doing much except making my blade dull. I'm gonna stab through it, and also I'm holding it hanging so it has no resistance at all. It can just bend away. And even then, it does penetrate. Yeah. So this would not be good against any sort of a penetration. And I'm just gonna apply the pressure from above steadily, without it being an explosive stab. And you see it goes through, so not stab proof at all. somewhat cut-proof, but again, I'm explicitly telling you not to use this for any actual protective purposes against anything. It's a costuming technique. What this would be good against is zombies, I think. Assuming they have still human teeth and not some special sharp teeth. Because as we saw, penetration with a sharp item, this doesn't hold up. But just teeth? Oh, God. I don't think a human, or for that matter a zombie, would be able to really bite through this again unless they have some mutation. Now, animals, zombies with mutated teeth or whatever, probably yes. So this is pretty much... God, my teeth hurt now. What is the durability of this? Would it deteriorate with time? Well, yes, of course, like everything else. And also, if you let your enemy, like a opposing gang of raiders or whatever, get close to you and pick at your armor, like nitpicking at it, like then of course they could, over time, probably... Well, not really. I mean, they could break off a couple of pieces here and there, but for the most part, in the spots where there was a lot of glue, it's almost impossible to peel something off. Like, I'm really trying to get my fingers under there, but it's not working. Now, you gotta watch out when you use coarse fabrics, like this burlap. They will be soaked with this glue, and when it dries, it can create spikes like this, like we have here. I could actually scratch myself on this. So gotta watch out for edges like that when you do something like that. Because again, everything that is soft and fluffy will retain its form, but become hard. Now, before you inevitably ask me what kind of glue to use and which brand and blah, one of the most common types of glue you can get in the world, I think, PVEC based white glue or wood glue. I am not sponsored by any brand, and I don't think it matters which brand you use. What I think does matter is that it says PVEC based. I'm not sure about the vinylic part here, but PVEC based wood glue, also known as white glue, is white, and when it cures, it becomes transparent, which is really, really cool, because then you can still see that it's made up out of all those different fabrics. Now, I also picked the ultra fast curing version. You can do that or not do that, depending on how much time you have to just let it sit there and cure. Wood glue doesn't take that long to cure. Different options will have different cure times. Let's say it uses the entire bottle for this much, and this much is enough to cover my torso. So this is the kind of expenses you have to count with if you are doing this kind of thing. Or maybe you already have some wood glue that's about to expire or something, because they do not last forever, and then this is another great option for you to dump it on. So, as the first step, I want to create a base. Just a big piece of fabric on top of which I will be gluing everything else. For that, I'm gonna use my old underpants that I found in this scrap fabric crate. Now, you don't want to do this even if you create a base. You still don't want to do this on a wooden table, because the wood glue will stick to your wooden table, and good luck peeling that off later. It did not stick to this plastic-ish tablecloth that I have here. And also, of course, the base, its main job is to keep everything from sticking to other stuff. But still, some glue will seep through the base, and then you will have a problem if your table is made out of wood. So as you see here, I'm just cutting off pieces of my scraps. I'm trying to create a visually interesting composition. It might look random, but really I did pick instinctively without spending too much time on it, but still pick and not just randomly take each piece of cloth here. And I'm cutting them to proper shapes so that it will create a visually interesting abstract composition, if you will. And you can see that I'm soaking it all in glue. If you get like a 75% soak, that's good, I think. So if your fabric is like 75% drenched, I did this just one time, so maybe 100% is better, maybe 50% is sufficient, I don't know, try it out. But I'm making sure that every layer that I add, I press firmly on top of it so that the glue really drenches through it. Also, you can see me wearing a mask here. I don't think the packaging of the glue actually said to do that, but I was using a lot of it and it was kind of smelly, so I just did it just to be extra safe. And also you see that I'm using dust here, which I don't think did a lot. It was just an experiment, but I could not really see any visual impact of it as I had hoped in the finished result. So after that, I'm using some diluted fabric paint of dark colors to sprinkle it on top of it with a lot of water. My logic being that I want to unify the fabric colors to make it all look more distressed and homogenic by using that dark paint. And you see it seeping through here because I've added a ton of water on top of that. And the reason I thought adding this much water was okay is because PVEC based glue uses water, as far as I understand it anyway, as the solvent already. So that's why it says it's solvent free, because it's not really solvent free, but the solvent is water. Again, at least as far as I get it. So I decided, hey, I will dilute it with a lot of water, so that will help the glue seep through all the layers of the fabric for more cohesion. And maybe it did, maybe it didn't, but what it definitely did is increase the cure time of this glue, which actually cures within, like, I don't know, 10 minutes to an hour maybe, to maybe a couple of hours, I'm not sure. Anyway, it increased the cure time of this to like a week, because what was happening is that the top layers would dry and cure, and that would block the inner dampness, the inner water that was still in the layers of the fabric from getting to the surface. So this took forever. So do not do this that way. If you want, then first pick your scraps that you're going to work with and then sprinkle them with your diluted fabric paint and let it dry completely. And then do the gluing process. Now, it might be a consideration of diluting the glue a bit. Maybe like 10% water added or 20%. I might try it in the future. So that is just to help it be more runny and to get better through different layers of fabrics. It might or might not work and improve the result. Maybe you can try it if you're gonna do something like this. You can then share your experiences in the Nuclear Snail community group on Facebook, or just write to me directly or whatever. I would be really curious. And the next time I will, again, try different methods. Maybe if you want to do it super fast, it would be a consideration to just do one layer, let it cure, especially with an extra fast curing glue, and then do another layer on top of it, let that cure, and so on and so forth for an overall fast production time. This was just an experiment, and I can tell you not to drench it in water like that. And also keep in mind, it will be white like it was before, but it cures transparent, so don't let that scare you off as you do it. Now here is what you see right now on the screen is the backside of it, and you can see where the glue seeped through the fabric completely and also glued itself to that small piece of wood right there, and also all the dust and aluminum filings and shavings and whatever other small debris I had lying on the table. And you have seen those buckles underneath it before that. Those were just, to prop it up, so there is a air gap between the fabric and the table, so the air also gets to the bottom of it. There is no particular reason for those to be the buckles that they were. They were just lying there on the table. That's why I took them. One last thing I would like to point out is check out how I'm drenching it in glue as a top layer towards the end of the entire process to just seal it all in additionally, so that the surface of my thing is as covered and drenched and plastic-ish later on as possible. You may or may not do this. Maybe you want a sort of an effect that isn't that completely sleeked in, where pieces of fabric are hanging off of it. Then you can skip that step. So, hope you liked this episode, and we'll find some use for this Interesting technique. Let me know what you create. You can share your creations in the Nuclear Snail community group, which is on Facebook. It's linked in the video description. Also linked in the video description is my Patreon. So if you like what you're seeing and want me to make more videos for you, then consider supporting me on Patreon. And I will see you in the next episode. Until then, hail the snail.